Welcome to Knit To Cultivate To. This is primarily a fiber arts podcast. However, I get up to all kinds of shenanigans as we homeschool our kids. My name is Emily Wood and I live in Midland, Michigan with my husband Colin and our two kids, Elias, who's in 5th grade, and Stella, who's in 1st grade. Thank you so much for coming back. I think we're up to 83 subscribers the last time I looked, which is fantastic. Just as a reminder, once we hit 100, I will do a second giveaway. And I was thinking about it. I think I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing for the quarterly giveaway, which is at the end of March, or ends at the end of March. So I have a bunch of bare yarn. I have bare roving. I have bare unmercerized cotton for weaving. And basically I'm going to show you a picture of all the dye powders I have in my stash. And then you can pick your colors and I will dye something up for you. But you also can pick what you're doing, like a knitting yarn, a spinning fiber, or a weaving warp, something like that. So you have a lot of freedom in what yarn we'll be giving away. I'm gonna test this out. I think it's a really cool system and I think it'll be a hit, but we'll see. Anyway. And then I also have packages out for patrons and first episode giveaway for Kathy Stevenson. I told you guys these are gonna be out today. My week got bananas and it will be out Monday, which I know every single one of you said, don't worry about rushing it. So I don't feel worried about that at all. But I just want to let you know those packages are coming out to you on Monday. And then let's talk about the palette cleanser quarterly giveaway. So this is the palette cleanser sock. So you just have to knit any sock. It has to have a 3-inch cuff and that's the requirement. That's it. The goal of this was just to cleanse my palette after the holidays. It was the first holiday season we've ever hosted. We lived in 750 square feet for 8 years and have never hosted holidays because of that. And now we have much more space. So it was kind of stressful in a way that it's new, not that it wasn't enjoyable, but I needed something to kind of just clear my brain. So a sock, perfect, right? So you have until the end of March to knit this sock and to midnight at March, I guess, as I haven't thought these details through. Midnight, last day of March, my time in Michigan. So that's, Anyway, I'll put all of this below so you don't have to sift through my random thoughts. I also want to change how we're going to submit that. So I know last time I talked about how I don't want to use Ravelry forums because it's not accessible to everybody. So why would I even start doing that? So I'm trying to find a way to get around that. And I last time said I'll post another video and you can comment in it in the thread. But what I think I'm going to do is do that in my Facebook group. So I have just a Facebook page for Knit To Cultivate To. I post when episodes are up and that's about it. Some pictures. So it will not bombard your feed. But I will start a post there where we can comment with a picture of your sock. So all I want you to do is comment the pattern you used and a picture of your sock. And that's it. And that'll be your entry into the Cleanse Your Palette KAL giveaway, knit along. All right. And lastly, I just want to really quickly touch on Patreon for people that are just checking the podcast out for the first time, although there's 4 episodes, let's get real. Most people are just learning what's going on. I'm just learning what's going on. Okay, so for Patreon, this community that we have in Patreon has really blown me away. Honestly, it's way cooler than I expected, which is great, or it has surpassed my expectations. So we've been chatting in forums, I put posts up, and I don't know, it's been a lot more active than I expected, which I am so happy with. But anyway, so for $5 a month, I am offering additional content. So you get 1 monthly virtual knit night with me and the patrons. So far there are 2 patrons, and so it's a very small group. I do not have the date for our next virtual knit night. I am talking to people in Patreon. By the time I post this, I should, so I'm gonna post a date and time up here. But this will be our very first virtual knit night. So you get access to that, which is just a Zoom call. You get access to the virtual knit night. You get access to my additional dye pot content where I tell you everything I'm doing. I start from an inspiration picture. I'm going to go ahead and post this next month's inspiration picture that I've picked. I start from an inspiration picture and I dye 3 skeins of a colorway. And I talk about everything I'm doing. I'm gonna give you as many numbers as I remember to. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll give you the details. I'm just scatterbrained. So you'll get access to that monthly dye pot video where I talk about all of it. But then in addition to that, I give away 2 of the skeins to patrons only. So you will have 2 entries, like 2 raffle entries, I guess, for lack of better words, into the drawing of each of the skeins. So you have a chance to win 1 of 2 skeins. Or, yeah, because I would redraw if you got both of them. Yeah, so it's a great time. We've been having conversations. I've learned from my patron already, like cool methods that I want to try out. So I'm really excited about it. And that's how you enter. Again, I do want to reiterate though that we will always have quarterly giveaways. This podcast will always be free with lots of interaction from non-paying patrons. This is just additional content and community. And I think that's it for admin. So let's get to the knitting. My first work on the needles is the Sweetums cardigan. It's a baby cardigan, cabled baby cardigan by Karen or Corinne. And I have done this 3 times now. I'm going to message her and find out pronunciation because I'm kind of disgusted with myself that I haven't done that yet. Anyway, Sweetums by Karen is what I'm going to say. And it's about $7 US. I think I left off, I had the back panel finished and one of the front panels I was working on. I'm way farther now. Okay, so first, this is the back panel, and I think this is the easiest one to see the kind of pattern. It's hard to picture. You can kind of see it. And this is Knit Picks Hawthorne DK, and I dyed it with aubergine. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that either. Dharma acid dye. Anyway, I have 2 front panels. Let's see. Finished. They're not blocked at all. And a sleeve. And then I'm almost done with the knitting. Then I've got about this much of the sleeve left. So let's see, I'll hold it up to the other sleeve. Really close to being done, right? Okay, so this is a fantastic pattern. I would not call this a beginner pattern. There are certain aspects of it that I found, and I'm not saying this is the pattern. I'm saying it could be my brain, but not blaming the pattern designer. But there were certain parts that I had to sift through and read a few times before I understood it. And I'm a pretty advanced knitter, so I wouldn't call it a beginner pattern. I don't know what it was rated as either, so it absolutely might not even be like advertised as a beginner pattern, but I wouldn't say it's a beginner pattern. It's a fantastic pattern though. It's charted. I'm using the chart, so it's pretty simple. I am a huge chart knitter. I'm very, very spatial. But yeah, I love this. It's really great. It's gonna make such a good sweater. So then I need to block all my pieces and seam it together. And then I'll pick up the button band. So it will have, I need a neck band and a button band still. So that's going well. Yeah, I'm really excited. I actually, this is who we went to go see in Wisconsin, is this family who's getting this sweater. So I got to show it to her show her the panel in real life, which was fun. But again, I'll get to the trip later. But yeah, so that's how that's going, and it's great. No complaints. Oh, one thing I was gonna talk about though, let me see. I was curious. So I was talking to my friend yesterday on our not impromptu play date, the play date I dropped the ball on. And at knit night, someone made the comment to me, like, you're giving me so much anxiety not using a cable needle, because I just use a DPN. And the reason I started doing this is because I always have a bun. So I'll just stick it in my bun. And the problem is I forget I have it in. I have literally taught 2 entire calculus classes with a knitting needle just stuck in my hair. I remember the next time I noticed it when I got to my car, and I saw it like in the reflection. And I just went to class the next day. I was like, guys, If I have a knitting needle in my hair, please tell me. Next time, don't just look at it for an hour because you're looking at the back of my head, right? Anyway, they thought that was funny. But I keep losing them. They keep falling out as I'm like walking around the house. So I keep finding them places, which isn't fantastic. But Knitter's Pride, my neighbor just got this because she keeps losing her cable needles. Knitter's Pride has this necklace that's like a pendant, and it's magnetic, and it has magnetic stitch markers and magnetic cable needles. And they do have a DPN style cable needle that's just shorter. So I think I'm gonna get that. She opened it up when I was at her house yesterday, and it's so cute. Like, it's a really cute necklace too. I would wear it all the time. So yeah, I think I'm gonna get one of those, but I keep losing my DPNs all over. And I guess I just never bought a cable needle because of the little bump in it. And I think it's because of how I hold it. We were talking about this. I hold when I have it on there, like, so say I'm holding the cable to the back. So I put 2 stitches on my cable needle and hold them in back. I'll hold it parallel to this needle and basically kind of do knit off the back needle. Like, I don't know, I'll do my knitting off the front and then just knit off the back. And so it's really a seamless process that I've gotten in the habit of. So we'll see. But I really like that necklace, and it was so cool. We were like, that's neat. Anyway, it was nice. But that's all I've got about this. So I'd actually be curious to know, do you guys use cable needles? I guess I think what it is I got in the habit because I'm not worried about fixing it or dropping stitches. I can just fix it. So I just fix it. I don't know. I guess I just got out of the habit of that, and I was curious, what are the benefits? Why do you like cable needles? So next I'm going to show you my Cleanse Your Palette knit along socks. So this is the Winter Rose socks by Helen Stewart, and it's about $6.37 US. And they're gorgeous. I have one finished, and this is where I was last time too. I had one finished. I love this pattern. It's a little lace pattern. I didn't get sock blockers out again. I need to keep them in my cart, but they're really pretty boot socks, and I'm gonna wear them with my brown, like light brown boots. They're gonna be perfect. I have the second started, but I've knit 3 rows since last week, so it's not crazy. But how is it not February still? My brain still thinks it's January, and it's like coming up on mid-March. So I need to finish these so that I have socks done for the knit along. It's a twisted rib, which looks really nice. The other thing about these socks that I liked, I don't feel like I've seen this, but I also have short-term memory loss with ADHD, and probably have seen this. But when you pick up the gusset stitches, or when you pick up stitches for the gusset, they have you knit the first row twisted through the back loop. They twist it. And I really like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it at all, probably not. No, but it really did, like right there, twist them so that it was just a neater look. I've never really thought about that part, like that part of the sock doesn't bother me. I was trying to see if I had another sock knit in this cart, because I always do. No. But I thought that was a neat technique, and I really hadn't seen that at all. So yeah, I was thinking about doing some swatching and like comparing the two in the same yarn, because it's kind of hard. And I honestly don't know if I prefer it or not, because you can see that it's twisted, but I don't know. I think I'm going to do some swatching and see, or like some ankle socks maybe, and do one of each and see which one I prefer. But yeah, these are going really well. And again, remember, go to the Facebook group to submit if you can get a pair of socks done with a 3-inch cuff by the end of March. Go for it, because I'll have yarn for you. And there's not a lot of people yet, so probability rules mean you could win. More likely to win. All right. The last thing actually on my needles is a pair of Rose City rollers by, oh, isn't it? I'll put the name up. I'm sorry, I forgot to write it down. And I know it off the top of my head, so I didn't think I would need this, but now I can't think of it. Something Briner. Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, I'm not going to try and waste your time. So these are just a pair of Rose City rollers. They're ankle socks with a rolled cuff, simple vanilla socks. I use Knit Picks Felici all the time. This is one of them. They're 50-gram skeins. I can get a pair. I have children-sized feet. I can get a pair of ankle socks out of one 50-gram skein, as long as I don't try to match the colors. So they're fraternal stripe patterns. And I knit them medium. I can't do it with a large. Yeah, but so this is my go-to sock. I wear a lot of leggings. I think I talked about this. Because I'm really short, my leggings are short. And I could hem them, but that's extra effort. So a lot of times they're just bunched up at the bottom of my legs. I do buy short leggings when possible, but I'm also not going to sit and search through all the leggings to find the one that has shorts, a short option. So I don't know, I deal with it, right? But because of that, ankle socks are really nice when I wear leggings and like basically anything. So I wear a lot of ankle socks. I also have a sensory processing disorder, so sensory issues with touch, and ankle socks cause problems. If I'm in a boot, like if I have a boot on, I need a sock, because then the texture of the sock is better than a bare boot rubbing against my leg, right? It has to be comparative or in relation to. Yeah, so like I'll wear those, my winter rose socks, because I'll be wearing them in boots, so it won't notice it. It'll feel constricted anyway. I'll be focused on other things, like how my foot feels in a shoe. Yeah, it's great. But anyway, so these are my go-to vanilla knitting. I always have a pair of these on the needles so I can grab them and take them if I need it. Now, I have one finished. This is the Game Over colorway. I love this. The Game Over colorway. I have one finished. Started the other one at Knit Night Wednesday. Took it with me to my play date yesterday and really messed up. I got distracted. I didn't do slip stitches. So where I picked up stitches kind of looks uneven. And then I started doing decreases and didn't do any of like the knit two together decreases. I just did the front side, this SSK. So I am probably gonna frog this. Just start over. I might try to fix it because it's only it's only, no, I'm gonna rip it out. It's quite a few rows to drop down. It's not worth it. And again, these are like, I'm not in a rush. I'm always knitting one of these, so I'll just start over. Although I do need these needles. I almost cast on something else, which I'll talk about next, but these needles were being used, so I kind of want to get these off so I can steal them, or I'm just gonna buy more twos. We'll see. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into plotting and purchases. I did no spinning and I did not dye a warp this month, or this week. 2 weeks, it's a 2-week period. I talked about how I got the soda ash in and I was going to dye a warp for my loom. Once it gets nice, I'm gonna put it on and do some weaving in my sunroom. Well, none of this happened because our week just got crazy and our trip was kind of last minute. But anyway, this is Beauty Queen by Emma's Yarn. Both of them are Beauty Queen on different bases. And I have a mohair, silk, and I will find the button band for this one. I don't remember what it is. I set it over there, but I'll put it up top. And it's in the colorway Beauty Queen. It's like a peachy cream with pops of like maroon. And it's amazing, or dusty rose. It's amazing. I am going to knit the Gatan balaclava. I did not write who this is by, so I'll put it up there. It is about $4.31 US. They have a kids version of this too. And let's see, I have 100 grams of the fingering weight and 50 grams of the mohair. So I have twice what the pattern calls for. So I'll definitely be able to make a matching one for my daughter, which I'm thrilled about. And if I have leftovers, I'll just make a headband or something because this yarn is fantastic. The one thing I will say about Emma's yarn, I went on it. So I talked about this maybe in the first episode. No, it would have been the second. It was $31.50 for 50 grams of the mohair. But I bought the mohair for my novice cardigan was $15 for 25 grams. So when you add those together, it was $1.50 more for hand-dyed mohair, which is fantastic. In fact, I think you should probably sell it for more money. But it was a great deal. The problem is you can't order online for them. They only sell yarn to yarn shops to promote the yarn shop itself. And this is not a convenient yarn shop for me. It's not a yarn shop I will visit, most likely. It's location dependent. Like Frankenmuth is a good bit further than I go for yarn, right? I have a lot of local yarn shops in one area. In fact, I was just telling a friend that we've been in Columbus for almost a decade, which is a massive city. And I have more local yarn shops like close by than I did there. I think I counted 5 yarn shops within 30 minutes of my house. So, and then Frankenmuth has one and a wool factory, and that's like 45 minutes. So it's a very, there's a lot of it here. And this particular yarn shop is in the back of a boutique. And so it is in a full yarn shop. So it of course, because of that, there's less variety, right? But again, it's mainly location dependent. I don't go to Frankenmuth. But when I do, I definitely want to go back to this place. It's not somewhere I'm going to go frequently. And Emma's yarn is in Florida. So it's not like I can find it at the other local yarn shops. So that was kind of a bummer because I really wanted to get some more of this mohair. But I guess the moral of the story is I just need to learn to dye mohair. Because it's hard to find. But I love this. I'm really excited to cast it on. I need needles to cast it on, so I'm kind of needing to clear some projects. I feel like I talked about this at Knit Night. I don't want another set of interchangeable needles. I just need the small sizes. I think I'm gonna buy a second set of just the small sizes. But yeah. But that's all the plotting and planning I have. I have a lot of projects ready to go, queued up and ready to go, as in yarn is dyed, yarn is ready, I need to swatch, and that's it. So I have a sweater for my husband, I have some Harry Potter ones that I want to crochet for the kids, I have a sun hat that I want to crochet for myself for the summer, this balaclava. I have a few other projects, but they're all I have a ton of them already ready to go, queued up, partitioned out in project bags, ready to go. So I don't have a lot of planning going on right now, at least in knitting and spinning and weaving and fiber artsy stuff. I have plans. I'll get into garden stuff in the next section. Okay, so I talked a lot about my garden last time, and I haven't really I did finally, I'll put a picture up, make a spreadsheet with the things I plan on growing, with the growing time on when I should start them. I want to have this compiled so that I don't have to look it up every year. I want to have it in one place so that I can say, okay, well, zucchini I plant now. This is what the day I start. This is what I do. And I just have it all in one place instead of going to the Farmer's Almanac every single time. Although I will say every year you should update, I think. So the Farmer's Almanac website tells you predicted frost dates and things for the year. So the dates could change slightly every year. So you might want to go in and check, but how much easier is it to just edit one column of a spreadsheet than to try to write all of this down every single year? So I'm compiling a system, an organization system for my garden planning. but I went to the library to get more info about our seed library, which is so cool. I will say this though, if you're in Midland, I was told that the person who started the seed library is no longer there. And it very much was something most of the people I talked to did not have I asked a few of the librarians and they were like, oh, I'm not sure what we're doing with that. Like, I don't think it's something they've talked about yet for this season. But keep that in mind. Anyway, I'll tell you what all the ones I got, but then I'll show you these. I got carrots, cucumbers, and these are lettuce, snap peas, watermelon, squash. Oh, that's not the squash I meant to grab. Well, I guess I'm doing summer crookneck squash and cornfield pumpkins. So you get these envelopes and they have the name, they have how much light it needs, the depth to plant, how far apart, the distance, the row distance, germination time, days to maturity. Is the seed collection easy or hard? It says pumpkin seed collection is difficult. I wonder if that's because of cleaning. They are a pain to clean. I don't know. It tells you a little bit about it. It says it's a carving pumpkin. It also tells you the seed year and where they get their seeds, the link to get more. So they get all of their stuff from Seed Savers Exchange. And so then you just go and it's like an old card organizer for the library. And you pull out the little drawer and pick a packet, right? And so this is the cornfield pumpkin packet. I think it does not have a lot, but these are huge seeds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seeds in here. And again, this is from the library. This is all free. And they had a ton of them. But they ask you, like, it's a seed exchange. So the idea is you take seeds and you collect your seeds at the end of your harvest and bring them back to replace. I think that's a fantastic program. I definitely want to do that. I would be interested in adding to it, even adding to the library if I add different species. So I'm going to look into that too. But this is a really cool program and I highly recommend anybody that is anywhere near Midland, or I guess you need to be in city limits of Midland unless you pay for the library at our library. So if you're anywhere close and you have a library card, I highly recommend checking out the seed library because it's really good. Other than that, I haven't started seeds. Our week has been bananas and I plan on starting seeds when we get back. We're leaving. I'm going to get into that in a minute, so I won't get too into it. But I also want to talk about, I don't think I mentioned this last time, but I start my seeds in little solo cups, like red solo cups, and I just drill or pound with a nail and a hammer, like 3 drill holes in each, or drain holes in each cup. Fill it with soil, and then during COVID, our public school had lunches that they gave away and you went once a week to get them, and it was all like shelf stable stuff, so we used that snack stuff all the time, and like the cereal and all of it. But they had fruit cups and vegetable cups, and so I would save those little plastic cups and I use them as the hydrating dome because they're clear. So I cleaned them out. So I have a little solo cup, I put my seed in it, put a little dome on top. It has its own little individual domed greenhouse. And that's how I start my seeds, and it works really, really well. But it's also nice because then once they start, like, each seed grows differently, so I have a little more control over when I take that off and I allow air to get to it and let it get stronger. So I really like that system. It's worked well. I'd love to hear if anyone has suggestions or things that they do that might be even better, but so far that's a good system for me. I have an area in my house, once I get it all set up, or not set up, but once I get all my seeds started, I'll take a picture of it. That has a grow light, and I'm gonna put everything over there for now because it's nice and out of the way, but it's also really close. It's in the room off of my sunroom. So once it starts to warm up, the sunroom is gonna be a really great place to kind of get the plants acclimated to the wind and the sun. So I'll be able to take them out there and open only one window to get a slight air coming in and strengthen the stalk. and then for sunlight. So I can take them out pretty easily for like an hour or two and put them back in. And again, because I individually plant them in solo cups, I get to choose which plants go where and what needs what, which was something that I had last year. I had started them out in the little peat seed starters that you can get on Amazon, and they're in a tray. But then all of them were in a tray, and I couldn't really move everything around the way they needed to be. And the nice thing about these cups is that you can get them, so if you're growing in a window, your plants want sunlight, right? So they're gonna grow towards the sunlight. And I could rotate the cup so that they grow up. So I didn't have just a big awkward rectangular tray to keep rotating. I literally rotated the plants that did it and left the others as is. And you can move them around. I don't know. It adds a little bit more flexibility, I find, and I really like that. But other than that, that's garden planning for now. I hopefully will have lots of stuff to show you next week, getting everything started. Okay, so for homeschooling, I just want to talk about a few things. First off, we went on a trip this week, which was fantastic. And there's not really any pictures to show you because it wasn't like a vacation trip. It was me and one of my best friends and her two kids, who are literally my kids' best friends, went to Wisconsin. They were our neighbors. I try to explain this kind of relationship with people, and it's kind of hard. We were neighbors, our kids, we've known each other for 6 years, 7 years almost. And our kids have never known a time in their life where we just don't hang out outside with them for hours most days. Like, these are like, it's just a different kind of relationship when you're neighbors with your best friends too, right? And so we went to go visit them. It was kind of last minute. We got hotel rooms at a nice hotel with adjoining rooms. We bring board games. We're all into board games. Honestly, the kids were just so excited to see each other. And we brought ice skates. We all have ice skates, and we brought sleds and outdoor stuff. These are we're pretty outdoorsy, and these are our outdoorsy activity friends, right? That we do our outdoor stuff with. So we brought all our outdoor gear, and it didn't have enough snow. And then we had not looked up the Children's Museum, but it was closed the 2 days we were there. So we really just ended up swimming like 5 times. They had the hotel pool to themselves. It was dead. It was a new hotel, and we got it dirt cheap. But it was great, and we got nice takeout and brought takeout to the room, played games. It was phenomenal. It was amazing. And yeah, but again, there wasn't much to show from that, but that kind of like pushed our week back. And then it's homeschool week at the Legoland Museum and Sea Life in Auburn Hills near Detroit. We have a new homeschool friend. I know the mom. She's helping with this co-op that I started, and she has 4 kids, and she's going, and I was like, you know what, we could totally do that, let's go. And so we're gonna go to Legoland today for the homeschool half tickets, and then my sister lives there, so I'm gonna go to her house and we're gonna hang out with her for 2 nights. So part of the reason this week in particular was so busy is it's my husband's spring break. I don't think I've talked about this, but we have 1 car. We lived in the middle of Columbus. We have a very fancy cargo bike. I'll post a picture because it's really cool. It's an electric cargo bike, and I can tow 4 children with it. We have a very nice bike trailer, and my kids can sit up on top. So actually, I could tow 5 kids because you can squeeze 3 kids on that cargo seat. But we use that to bike all over Columbus. I use that all the time. And part of it it's not a cheap bike, so it's not a money saving thing, but I love biking. It's one of my favorite things to do. So biking around town was very enjoyable for me and is definitely a necessity. So we're very lucky because I personally find Midland to be ridiculously bikeable. You can get most places just biking in residential roads. It's bananas. Like, my son can just bike with me without worrying about it. Or like, there's like one street we cross and it's like a 2-lane road, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is nothing. So it's great. We love that we can bike around. But because we have 1 car, we're very limited in when we get out of the house. and I wouldn't say very limited. My husband only has 2 days where we're stuck home, and which isn't a big deal. We homeschool. We can get school days done those days, so it's not too bad. But and the reason we have it now that we're in a not as drivable area, we haven't gotten a new car, is because we're kind of in this perfect triquetra where we are doing solar. We needed a new roof when we moved in, a new furnace, and a new car. So everything in our house is already electric except for the furnace. Electric furnaces are cheaper than gas furnaces to purchase, but more expensive to run. However, if you have solar, that's not a concern. So we are getting solar and then an electric car just to have my husband commute. We have a minivan, so that's like our family car to get around, and our travel car. So we literally just need a second car for him to go to and from work. So because of those 3 perfect things, we're in the process of getting solar. We're just kind of at the point where they're gathering all the permits and everything's getting ready to go. And because of it, again, it kind of checked a million boxes for us. We needed attic access. Our house does not have attic access, so they're going to put that in. They're going to re-insulate our attic, which is needed. So like, and these are just free add-on things that, because we're doing all this work. So it ended up being like, I think when I looked it up, the average Michigan homeowner alone saves about $8,000 over 20 years by going solar. But because of how many things we needed perfectly to replace at this time, it's a huge savings for us. So I understand that this might not be what makes sense for most people, but for our family, it really did. And so we're in the process of getting another car, but it's a process. Anyway, that was a really roundabout way to say this is my husband's spring break and we're using the car and ditching him, which is just fine for him because he is getting lots of downtime. All right, I think that, let's see, my document went up, or my document reset, so I don't know where I'm at. Let's see. Ooh, we got some new board games that I was going to talk about. First off, Sleeping Queens. I'm going to put a picture because I didn't grab any of this stuff. Sleeping Queens, we got, this is a very common homeschool game schooling game, and it incorporates math in a fun way, but it incorporates math in a way that you're not performing, you're creating. And what I mean by that is you're not being asked a math question and having to answer it and having to provide the answer. You are designing the math question. So you can discard additional cards if you have enough to make a math sentence. So say I have a 10 and a 1 and a 9. I could discard, instead of discarding 1 card at a time, I can discard all 3 of those if I say, okay, 10 minus 1 equals 9, done. So they have to create the math problem in their head. My daughter is a very typical child. She is a daydreamer. She wants to play all day. She's very uninterested in school. And a lot of this has to do with, I can see the ADHD tendencies, and she kind of needs to get over that executive dysfunction hump before she can actually get through school. And once she does, she's fine. But we really struggle with, like a lot of stuff in the early days is just repetition, like sight words and math. It's repetition to get it memorized and under your belt. And she struggles with repetition because she gets really bored. So we have to be creative in the ways that we educate her. Because other math games that I've tried with her, it's very apparent that you're doing math. And it's not, there's not like a bonus to doing that math problem. It's also not every turn. You can't do a math problem every turn. In fact, I think one game I could only do like 2 the whole game because I just had bad cards. So anyway, it's a good one. I like that they have to come up with the sentence themselves. So we are into that. They played that yesterday with my husband. The other game we got recently is called Wingspan, and it's so good. One of my very best friends in Columbus recommended this game, and when she recommends a game to me, I just buy it. Like, it's just, yeah. And now that I can't borrow games from you as my, friend in the city, I'm just gonna buy it. So it's about birds. You build an aviary. It's an engine building game. Phenomenal. My husband and I, when we played it all afternoon to figure it out. And we just kept saying, this is so genius. And there are just so many layers and pieces to it and moving things. It's such a good game. And, there was a point I was going to make and I lost it while I was finishing my other point. What was it? Oh, I really like, you can play in Automa mode, or I don't know what it's called, Automa something. So you can play by yourself. So there are rules and ways that you can play by yourself, which I love. And this company that made the game is called Automa Factory. So I'm wondering if they like specialize in games that are like this, that are board games you can play as a group, but then there are also rules to make it a way you can play by yourself. And my husband keeps laughing because he's like, you're totally gonna do this. Like, you're totally gonna try to do this yourself. You love this game. Yeah, I'm so into it. But I want to see, and first off, how cool is that? How cool is it and accessible? Think about it. Like, people that are really into board games that are single, like, you have to play with other people. And maybe you have a really good virtual community, which is, there are so many ways to play D&D board or D&D games with people and just all kinds of virtual settings for that now. However, this is great. What if you're not in the mood to socialize? What if you don't want to do that? This is really accessible, and I think it's really cool. So I definitely am going to look up Automa Factory and see if there are any other games I want to buy. But the artwork in the game is really cool. They say that there is a card for every species of bird in North America. I know, it's so fun. It's a hard sell because you're just building an aviary, but I'm telling you, it is such a cool game. It's very complex, lots of layers. There are so many moving pieces, and there's so much going on behind the scenes. Like, you don't have a concept of who's winning. And it's one of those games where you have a strategy and it could completely flop. And it's just, there's so many different strategies you could take, and there's not enough time to do all of those things. So you really have to pick a strategy and stick with it. Anyway, awesome game, super educational also, which is why I'm putting it in the homeschool section, because while I don't necessarily read the cards, we could make it a lesson. And we probably will, but it's too complex for my 6-year-old, absolutely. And honestly, when we were trying to learn how to play, my 11-year-old got bored and left. So I think he'd be fine with it now that we know how to play and aren't doing like a really slow tutorial. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe it's a little too advanced for my kids, but I do still have younger or elementary aged kids. All right, let's see what else I've got in this homeschooling section. Oh, so another piece of that, my daughter is kind of fighting everything we do in school, is I bought some new workbooks. We're not huge on workbooks, but I'll get into why I like these. So these are the Evan Moore, which I like the style of, the dailies. So this one I just got. This isn't something she's behind on. I just like it. Daily science. So daily questions. So let's see. This is Big Idea 3, week 4, day 2. And it has a weekly question. Can anything live on the moon? And then all week you do like, every day you have like a different little activity you go through to answer that one question for the week. I like how that's organized. I like things like this because it sparks conversation. It sparks looking into other things. So I personally like the little tasters, right? And that's what works with my daughter is, oh, I can hide school and you don't really know we're doing it. But this, I think, is gonna spark a lot of conversation with her. Then I have like daily math practice, so it's short and sweet, right? And I'm gonna pick and choose which activities I wanna do with her. These are, I'll put links to all of these. I got them off Amazon, so they're really easy to find. If you Google Evan Moore, EvanMoor, and the grade, I think that's easier in Amazon. But I highly recommend this. And I got their handwriting one. We like handwriting without tears, but the handwriting book's like $11 and it has Prime shipping. So I'm not going to get picky about handwriting curriculum, right? Like, I just need you to learn how to write better. So I just don't really, that's not what I'm gonna be nitpicky about, right? So I got these, and I'm really hoping that works. But this kind of sparked the conversation of curriculum hopping, and I am really guilty of this. However, I also think that every time I swap up curriculum, I learn new things about my kids and how they learn and what works for them. And I actually talked to my neighbor the other day about how it's interesting because it's also what works for one kid doesn't work for another. And like their family has 3 math curriculums because of it. So it definitely is kind of picking and choosing what you like and what works and what doesn't. And so we've done a mix of online curriculum and on paper and hands-on versus more book reading. I feel like we've kind of done it all, and we like different things for different subjects. So English, language arts, and math we do through Funcation, which is Edmentum's True Path adaptive system. As somebody who taught, I'm not an educator. I did not study education. I studied applied mathematics, but I taught during grad school, and we used an adaptive program by McGraw-Hill called Alex, and it's amazing. It'll skip you ahead if you understand the problems. It'll take you back if you don't. It does knowledge checks and checks how you're doing, and if you didn't do well on a subject that you've already learned, it takes you back. And so it's not just adaptive in the way that it skips you ahead, it's also adaptive in making sure you have all those missing pieces of education. So I love that. It also gives really good test scores so you know where your kids are standing. I like that too for my, I know that's not something I should be fixated on, but I have anxiety, and so I do. And I'm in charge of their schooling, so it's more of a personal failing than, or it feels more like a personal failing. It's not at all. Anyway, so curriculum hopping can be a benefit. It can also hinder though, right? If you're changing things up too quickly, your kids don't know what to expect, it can absolutely cause problems. I feel like my kids are very, very flexible, go with the flow for the most part. But yeah, so we actually use a mix, but then social studies, he doesn't like the online stuff. He likes the online science with virtual labs, but he does not like the social studies or like other things. So we use the history quest for that, and Curiosity Chronicles. So yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I haven't really found what perfectly works for my daughter, but I do know like we've like nailed it down with my son, at least it feels like. And then I'm gonna talk quickly. I talked about the co-op that we're starting. And if you're in Midland, I'm gonna link it below because I can't remember the order, but it's basically Midland/Saginaw/Bay City of some order, Tri-Cities area, secular co-op. Yes. I'm gonna link the Facebook group below. But if you're in the area, it is completely surpassed my expectations again. This group started, 3 weeks ago, and it has 50 some people in it. I'm so impressed and happy that this was obviously a necessary thing in the community, that the community was missing. But I looked into a few locations. We're gonna start weekly meetups, and we're alternating locations in the 3 Tri-Cities to be accessible. And yeah, it's going really well. We had a meeting Saturday, and it went from 2 to 5:30, and it was really more of a meet and greet, but also like I brought my list and agenda of things I wanted to accomplish or like ask questions about. Part of the problem for me is that I don't know anything about this area. Like I'm trying to like get something started, and I'm like, I don't know any of this. So there's a lot of collaboration that is necessary. because even just like, okay, I don't even know the library system in Saginaw. Like, I know nothing. We've been here 6 months. So regardless, it's been great. We hope to have clubs. Our goal is to have monthly unit studies and classes and field trips and clubs started by the fall. And then up in, right now until end of summer, we're going to do weekly play dates in the alternating locations. So that's currently what I'm getting set up, is the weekly play date or socialization, right? Weekly game socialization, which is going to be a lot easier in a few weeks. Again, I'm in Michigan, so it is still winter. It is currently snowing. So outside isn't terribly accessible for a lot of people. Also, it's just not accessible. It's not accessible to young children. It's not accessible to people who might not have the money for proper winter gear, but still want to socialize. We need to make it more accessible. So indoors currently is what we're looking at, but that's only going to be for like a month, right? I think we'll get through one play date at each of the locations, and then it'll be time to do outside stuff. So that's encouraging. But lots of people have stepped up to help. Lots of people are interested. It's been a fantastic experience. I cannot believe I don't know if you guys have these moments too, but it was one of those moments where I'm so glad I took this leap. I'm feeling so full. I'm feeling so satisfied that I feel like I am helping create something for our community that is helping and making homeschooling more accessible to people, because that was part of it. Part of it for me was how exclusive homeschool groups in this area are, and I'm not going to get into those reasons. But the other part for me is that a lot of the homeschool information out there is geared towards people who have a stay-at-home parent. And there are groups and there are lots of ways, but the whole thing for me is, how can I talk about homeschooling to disadvantaged people? I was 22 when I had kids. I was a low-income parent. Like, I know that how I viewed homeschooling back then, that wasn't even on my radar because it wasn't an option, but it could have been. And if that's the way your child learns, there are ways to make it work. There are tons of people who both work full-time and do homeschooling. And I wanted a place where those discussions were happening, how to non-traditionally homeschool. Anyway, so there's a lot of pieces to it. I feel like it's adding value to the community. I feel like, and it's benefiting my children. We're meeting people. We're getting our community as well out of it. So it's been a really cool experience. And it's just one of those things where I am so glad I did this. I'm so glad I did this and took the chance and just decided to do it, because it was definitely worth it and necessary. I'm going to stop ranting about that because that's enough, but it's going really well. I'll update if there's any more information, but I want to talk about it in case anyone's local and in case anybody wants to join. And that's all I have for the homeschooling section this time. The last few things I want to talk about today are in the personal learning section. And like I said earlier, we did not do a lot. We did not have a lot of I did not have a lot of personal learning. I did not read books. I did not watch any more Sweet Georgia videos. I did nothing for the Certificate of Excellence. I am going to talk about this though, because I did start doing some planning on it. The first two, so I think I talked a little bit about how this is split up. But there are, I think, two levels. Two levels. So level 1 is technical skills in hand spinning. And level 2, where is this? And level 2, why can I not find that? Is the specialized study. Individual development, And to demonstrate, they know how to research and develop an idea to bring it to fruition. So like a research project. I don't think that's a word I was looking for, but it does not matter. So the first level I'm going to be working towards is the technical skills in hand spinning. And some of these, so the first level 1 or part 1 and part 2 are all, part 1 is about design, and most of this is, or this is all research stuff. So you define some terms and write paragraphs and then there are activities that you can do, like discuss how spun size and finished size varies from fiber to fiber and along yarn styles. So they're kind of like research prompts, right? And then part 2 is equipment and fibers, and you have like the same thing, fiber preparation tools, spinning equipment, but then you start getting into some of the hand spinning techniques. And so you have sheep's wools. You need to do 5 different skeins of sheep wool, and they're all different, like a fine worsted yarn, a medium worsted yarn, and they give very specific instructions. So part 2 has, how many? Let's see. It tells me at the end. A lot of skeins. You have to do like 1 ounce samples, and then a lot of them you have to do swatches with them. But for part 2, is that what I said? Part 2, gosh, I'm sorry guys. I keep part 3, hand spinning techniques. You have 40 skeins, 40 mini skeins of 1 ounce bundles, plus I don't know if they all need swatches or not. So I'm going to start going through some of those, but it also depends because there are all kinds of requirements. So for the hand spinning techniques, you need to start, for the sheep's wool, you have to start with raw fleece, locks of raw fleece. So you have to do the processing. So only fleece prepared for spinning by the applicant can be used. So I need to source some local wool fleeces before I can get some of this started, not all of it. Some of it I might be able to do. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I've been kind of organizing in my brain how I'm going to work through the part 1 or level 1. So I'm excited about that. I haven't watched any more School of Sweet Georgia. I've been working through some of her courses. I really want to do the Intentional Weaver one from Linda Fry, but I haven't gotten to that yet. I was working through some spinning stuff first. But yeah, and then what else did I do? I haven't done any reading. I did look up audio versions of the books that I'm reading, and none of them are really audio books, so that was kind of annoying because I wanted to listen to them. The problem with listening to books is I don't take notes either. It's usually when I'm doing stuff. So if I'm reading on my phone, I can highlight whatever I want to like keep at the front of my mind, and then when I come to write my notes down for the podcast and like what am I going to talk about from it, I just go through. I can go in the highlighted section and I see all the highlights, so it's easier to organize and like kind of plan. But I haven't done any reading. Part of it is also I don't get any uninterrupted time. One thing about ADHD is it always takes me a long time to get into a task. So it takes me twice as long to get into a book, to actually focus, to get my brain focused. I'll have to reread a page a few times before I'm really into the book enough that I'm actually reading. So I don't get a lot of uninterrupted time. So when I'm interrupted, that's very frustrating for me. Very, very, very frustrating. And we have boundaries in my house, like my kids don't just come talk to me and yell at me. They come put their hand on my body so that I know they need something, but they're not interrupting what I'm thinking about or doing. Also, part of that is the auditory issues I have. So my sensory processing disorder, I have very heavy sensory or auditory issues. And so my kids can literally be standing next to me and saying my name over and over again, and I'm not listening. I don't hear it because I'm too hyper-focused on what I'm thinking about. So when they put their hand on my body, that is a lot easier for me because I feel that. Like that, I don't have a barrier between the input of the sense of the sensory input. Like the hearing, I have a barrier to actually hearing it. Whereas with the touch, that isn't a problem for me. So that's one of the other reasons we do that. I don't know what this note means. Yeah. Anyway, but it's fine. It is what it is. Creating more structure. I need to create more times in our day where we sit and read as a group too. So we've been pretty loosey-goosey over the winter with schedules. And I am pretty type A, obviously. And so I need a micromanaged day schedule. And we're working on getting that built up again. It's kind of hard. We moved from a really small space and now we have a house to take care of for the first time. And there's just other things that we haven't had to think about in the past. So I keep trying to make lists and I'm like, oh man, there's so much more that we need to take care of than we had to before. So we'll get there. We need to create more structure. We need to create more habits of reading and sitting to do that. But we'll get there. But there was no reading done this week. I did binge Even the Rich podcast. I get it on Apple Podcasts. When we were driving to and from Wisconsin. And that was really good. A friend of mine put it on my radar because of the Britney Spears conservatorship part. But I can't listen to things out of order. So I went to the first season and it was about Princess Diana and Meghan Markle and the firm, the royal family. Super good. The second season, I also finished the second season, was on the Murdoch family. And the third season is about Beyonce and Jay-Z, and that's the one I'm on now. Pretty good. It was it's a nice listen, and the girls are hilarious. And that's why I love it. They're so funny, but it's a good series. It was a good one to listen to and not really have to pay attention to. And the Murdoch family one was kind of bananas because I guess I didn't know any of this, so I don't know any of this. I guess the Succession TV show, which I also haven't watched, was based off their family, and I didn't know that. So then they talked to somebody. I didn't listen to this episode, but they talked to somebody about that, about how Succession was made on that family. Super interesting. Lots of backstabbing. It was very juicy. So great listen while I was stuck in the car for 6.5 hours with kids. It was great. But that's kind of why I haven't done any reading. But then lastly, I wanted to touch on one more topic. So Rachel from Wool & Spinning was talking about this morning while I was drinking my coffee, about being multi-craftual. And I think it was because she was showing a new magazine, and it's geared towards people that are multi-craftual, that have multiple crafts. And I am like this. I jump down rabbit holes with my crafts and go down different avenues. And so my fiber arts hobbies just keep multiplying, like outward, right? So I picked up spinning, then I picked up weaving, and then I picked up spinning, and then I picked up dyeing, and like it keeps going, right? And then now you've got all these branches that just continue to keep going. So the benefit to that is a lot of these things have overlapping skills. Like knitting with my hand spun helps me become a better hand spinner. So if I were just a spinner, I wouldn't know how my yarns are knitting up. I wouldn't know what I need to personally change about the yarns to make them better. So there's some of that. It's overlapping, which is helpful. And as a spinner, like having these overlaps, like, so I have spinning fiber, which then goes in my knitting stash, right? Or I spin it and then it goes in my knitting stash. So that's kind of nice too. But for me, the real reason is the ADHD, to be quite honest, because that's what causes me to follow all my interests like that into that branching pattern. And then in addition to that, it allows me, I hobby hop. So one major issue, ADHD is dopamine. I'm not getting dopamine. I'm dopamine deficient. So if something isn't interesting me, I cannot fake it till I make it. Like my brain is uninterested. I'm not doing that. So one thing that really helps me with boredom and getting bored of a project or a hobby and staying interested long-term in something is that I hobby hop. So like I have a few related hobbies. So when I get really when I think people say their mojo for knitting goes away, right? When that starts to go away, okay, well, I'm going to do some spinning for a while. And I really do focus on one thing predominantly at any one time. So like there are phases where I spin all the time. And then there are phases where I'm knitting all the time and doing no spinning. Again, the neurodivergent brain is very black and white. And so that is just kind of how my brain is designed. But that allows me to not abandon my crafts, which is very common with ADHD people. They find a new path that's giving them interest, and then they just start following that and abandon the others. And I think that because I'm hobby hopping like this, I don't ever really lose interest altogether. And so that has really helped. But it also just helps my ADHD brain exist. I use knitting and crafting a lot to get through things. I talked about this in at knit night this week, how when I tell people that knitting is the only thing that got me through grad school, they just like brush off what I'm saying and don't understand the gravity of it. But I was miserable and everything was, it was awful. I have so much grad school trauma, but it was really hard, and knitting gave me positive feelings. It kept me afloat. It also helped me keep my interest as I was doing research. I, during grad school, taught myself to knit while reading, so I can not look at my hands. And I'm kind of proud of myself now. I can do ribbing, which I never really thought I would practice, but like, I didn't think that would happen. So I'm really good at knitting while reading now because I had to read a bunch of papers, and I used knitting to get me over that dopamine hump because I knew I liked knitting. And if you buy fancy special yarn that you're only allowed to work on when you're doing research, I'm saying this and it sounds like I'm really on top of my game. I did not do this at all. This is a in hindsight thing, but then that can help you like stay excited about it. Kind of like when you do like a book on tape, but you only do it when you're walking. So like you have to walk in order to listen to the book. This also doesn't help if you're not great at keeping yourself accountable, which I am not either. So I get that, but it really did completely get me through. And yeah, and so I use my knitting a lot to do things I don't want to do. Like if I have to read something that I don't want to read, I do it while I'm knitting. And yeah, I use it a lot. But that's all I got. I just thought it was a really cool point that she was making, and I wanted to relate it to the ADHD side, the neurodivergent side, and how I do absolutely think that value or adds value and helps me in my personal life. I'd love to hear what knitting is for you and like how that, but for me, it's very therapeutic, and it's very much a tool to living in a neurotypical world as a neurodivergent adult. I knit during church, and I can actually listen and focus, and yeah, that's how God made my brain. So I'm fine with that. But like I knit everywhere. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining. I am done. I have rambled on so much more than I thought I would. This is the problem with not having a partner. There's no one to regulate me. So when I go on a track and lose track of what I'm even saying or the point I was making, no one's there to regulate it. And I am very bad at self-regulation. So thank you so much for putting up with this. And coming back each week. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.